So we've created a folder, then we created a document. We're going to go through all these tools that you need to create parts 1 through 3. I don't want to throw too much at you at one time, so we're just going to cover the individual tools that are combined to create the small scale parts. Small scale assembly will allow us to get a good estimate of how everything fits together. You're going to get plenty of repetition with these tools because we're going to have to use those over and over again. So it's going to seem kind of monotonous, but it's on purpose. And these are the most common tools that you'll use for most part creation. I'm going to go super slow. I'll speed up over time in future videos, but just in case you're a beginner, I'm going to describe exactly what I'm doing with the mouse so that you can just follow along with the video. Over here on the right hand side, it's currently an isometric view. We want to go to plane view. You see that it's X, Y, and Z. So we're going to left click with the mouse and go to top view. It's easy to use a traditional mouse because the mouse on a laptop is very difficult to get some of these features to work. Left click on sketch, scroll over it, left click on top plane. You notice sketch 1 pops up, so it's linked here to top view. Same thing here, you see sketch 1 and top plane. We're going to left click on this center point circle tool. Hover over the center, you see how it highlights. Left click and then drag that out. Left click again. You've got two options so that you don't create another center point circle. Escape, and that'll deactivate that tool. So I'm just going to hit undo over here on the far left hand side to get rid of those. Second option would be the dimension tool. Let's go ahead and select that. Left click on the outer edge of the circle, drag that out, and we're going to go 0.73. All the full scale tubes are going to be 0.75 inches. We're just changing that measurement so that the small scale will fit together, because that PLA, as it cools down, will shrink. We're going to scale these parts down to a quarter scale, so they're not going to be as strong as they would be in full scale. So we don't want any tension when we try to put these together. All right, go over to sketch 1, left click. Go over to your navigation cube, left click. You can just click on the outer edge. That's all we need to see. Now we have two different tools we could use. We could extrude, or we could sweep. We're going to use sweep, so we need another sketch. But this time we need to create this one in the front plane. I'm going to scroll the wheel to bring this down. I'm going to hold the wheel down on the mouse. And this is going to give us the length of the tube. So if the circle we created in top view gave us the diameter, now we're creating the length we want this tube. So left click on sketch, left click on front plane. Now scroll over, left click on the line tool, left click once it hovers, once it highlights after you've hovered, and drag that line out. Now it doesn't matter how long it is right now. Hit escape, just like we did for the center point circle to deactivate it. You saw that other line that was being stretched out. It disappeared because I hit escape before I left click. We're going to go to the dimension tool, left click on that. You notice that the line is highlighted. Left click, drag that out. And we want this to be 31.5. And this is based on the first test flight of a similar frame. That's where we came up with that length. So 31.5 is the tube that we need. So I just clicked on the outer corner of the navigation tube just so we could have a better view. It's now an isometric view. Let's left click on sketch 2 and close that out. Now we're going to use the sweep tool. So it's this third option up here. If extrude is the first option of those tools, we're going to sweep. Left click on sweep. We need faces to sketch. We need the outer diameter or outer face. So I just used the wheel to scroll in so that I could see that the circle is highlighted, I left click on that. You notice it says face of sketch 1 because we created that center point circle in sketch 1. Now it's asking us what path do we want to follow. Now here's the advantage of sweep over extrude. Extrude is going to be a straight tube, but sweep allows us to create curves in tubes. We're going to left click on that until it turns blue where it says swept path, and we're going to highlight the line by hovering over it, left click on it again, and now we've created that tube. So you want to see sweep 1, solid, new, because each one of these will perform different actions. Face of sketch 1, where it says faces and sketch regions, and then swept path, edge of sketch 2, and then close that out. So there's our first part, and now we're going to go and rename it. So we're going to right click on that, rename. We're going to keep part 1, but we're going to call that front frame tube. So right click again, assign or edit appearance. Let's go silver since this will be a tube. And then left click that check mark. Based on our drawing that we originally did, we can use that graph paper to get an estimate of how far it's going to go down. So it's roughly about 4 to 4.5 inches, it looks like. So let's put it at 4.5. We're creating this center point circle now so that we can keep all the sketches for part 1 together. So we know we're going to need this, so let's go ahead and create it now. So let's go sketch, we're in right plane, left click on right plane, left click center point circle. Notice I hovered over the center here. I'm going to bring this up, and I'm just going to create a small circle here. We'll zoom in on it in just a sec. Left click, doesn't matter the size right now, hit escape. Now use the wheel to scroll in, so the wheel on the mouse, come up to the dimension tool, left click on that, drag that away, and go 0.394. We're going to use a 10 millimeter bolt, and that's what 10 millimeters is in inches. That's going to secure the swing arm. All right, so we've got that. We can close it out. Now we need to set the distance. So click on the center of that. Click on the top part of that tube. Let's go over here. We're going to want that to be, because we know that connection is about 2.5 inches on each side. We want this hole to go through another connection that almost borders it. So let's go 4 inches, and then we can move that around later on. We use the graphing paper that we designed the paramotor with to get an estimate of where that's going to go. So that's the benefit of going old school, is we do have an estimate. Use small scale, we can refine that and get a more exact match. Isometric view, use the wheel to go scroll back in. And we're going to use extrude. Here's the benefit of extrude. Extrude 1, solid, make sure it's on solid. And instead of new, do remove. Click on that circle, or click on this sketch, either one will work. You notice that the hole is being created on only one side. We need this to go all the way through. We're going to do 2 inches. So this is an inch, so we don't have to change the depth. We can left click on that, and you'll see a hole that goes all the way through our front plane. There is part 1. Now let's go ahead and create part 2. So let's create our sketch. Left click on sketch, left click on the plane, left click center point circle, hover over the center, left click on that, drag that out. Escape, that'll deactivate that. Let's go over to dimension tool right here, left click on the edge, drag that away, and we want that to be 0.73. Just remember that would have been 3/4 of an inch, but we're making it a little bit smaller so these parts will fit together when we print these off in PLA. PLA is a filament that you can print with. It's one of the more common filaments. It's easier to use, and it's cheap. All right, so we've created center point circle. Let's close out that sketch. Back to front view. Let's left click on sketch again, left click front plane, left click the line tool. Let's hover over the center, left click, drag that away. left click again, pull that away, hit escape. That line, that second line will disappear. Left click on the dimension tool, left click on the line we just made, and we want this to be 13.5 inches. So that's going to give us the width of this frame. Let's close that sketch out. Let's left click over here on the edge of the navigation tube. Let's go up to sweep again, left click on the circle, left click swept path, left click on the line once you highlight it. Now we've formed our tube. Make sure that says sweep to, solid, new, face of sketch 4, that was the circle, and then edge of sketch 5, that's where we followed the line. Close that out. So let's go left click on sketch, left click on front plane, left click center point circle. Let's drag these away just a little bit. There we go. And then let's go create another one up here. Their size is not important yet. Let's left click on the dimension tool, left click on the outer edge. That's going to be 0.394 or 10 millimeters for that one. That's what we're going to use to mount these. We'll do the same thing here, 0.394. I want these to be equally spaced, but before we do that, let's get an idea of how far away we want this to be. Let's go about 10 inches. The motor will go on the plate. It's going to be one of the last parts we create. Let's go 10 inches apart. That'll give us an inch on each side. So let's scroll in with the mouse wheel. Hold the mouse wheel down to drag that up. Let's left click on this. Left click, we can change this. It doesn't have to be exact. And let's make that 1.75 inches from there. Now this one should automatically be 1.75. We can check that just to make sure they're equally spaced. I'm going to move this down, so I'm just going to bring that. I'm not going to change the bolt size. Could have done 1.75 here, 1.75 there, and then measured what that distance was between. Now we've got our bolt holes set. Let's left click and close that out. Let's go up here, left click on the corner edge. So it's left click. We've got extrude to solid new. It's asking us faces to sketch. We're going to use sketch 6. So I just went over here to the features and highlighted it there. It's trying to add, that's why you see a cylinder coming out. We're going to hit remove. And this is only 3/4 of an inch thick, so we don't need to change the depth. We don't really need to change the direction, but let's make it symmetric so it goes out both sides. Right click on that. Let's go rename part 2. We'll call that motor mount tube. Let's right click on that again and let's edit appearance. And then let's change the color so it looks like an aluminum. Turn that off and we'll start on part 3. Back to top view. Use the mouse wheel to scroll in. Left click on sketch, left click top view, left click center point circle, highlight over the center, drag that out, hit escape, left click on dimension tool, left click on the outer edge, 0.73, left click to close that out. This one won't take long because we don't have anything to extrude. Let's go back to front view, use the wheel to scroll out, left click on sketch, left click front plane, left click the line tool, left click in the center, drag that up. Notice I'm pulling that away, hit escape. I don't want that second line, it'll disappear. Left click on the dimension tool, left click on the line after it highlights. And we want this one to be 13.5 inches. Very similar to the motor mounts because we're going to use this as the structure to hold the bottom part of the frame together. Close out sketch 8. Let's go over to sweep. Make sure it's solid new. Faces to sketch. We want the circle. Swept path. Select the line. Close that out. Let's go to front view. Let's go to part 3. Right click, rename. Support tube. Renamed it. Hit enter. Right click again. Let's go edit appearance. click on silver, make it look like aluminum. So now we're getting repetition with some of the more common tools. Sketch, the dimension tool within that, extrude, and sweep.